Perspective on Florida Gateway College Television is sponsored by Nutrien. Nutrien, feeding the future.
Hello everyone and welcome to Perspective. This is a public affairs presentation of Florida Gateway College. My name is Mike McKee. My guests on the program today are Monty Stevens and George Burnham. They represent Habitat for Humanity here in Columbia County. We're going to tell you about Habitat for Humanity, how you can get involved, what is it exactly that they do besides just build houses for folks. We'll do that when we come back. Don't go away.
Are about to be dumped, which could possibly start a wildfire. How will Smokey deal with such a hot situation? The garden hose defense. Next, a thorough stir. Then another spray. And finally, feeling if the ashes are cool.
Oh, yeah.
Ah, yes, the selfie. A ritual practiced so frequently with this tribe, but not so much by Smokey Bear.
Only you can prevent wildfires.
To Perspective on Florida Gateway College Television. We also like to welcome the listeners to WQHL and WCJX to our program today. George Burnham and Monty Stevens are both members of the board of Habitat for Humanity in Columbia County. I believe this is the first time we've had you guys on the program. Welcome to the program.
Thank you.
Thank you for.
Monty, I think people know what Habitat is, but because they know that there's involving building houses. They know that Jimmy Carter, former president of the United States from Georgia, was a big advocate of the program.
Yes.
But in a nutshell, for those who may not be familiar with Habitat, what exactly do you do?
Well, we, exactly as you said, we build homes for people that otherwise maybe couldn't afford buying a house. And we'll get into more on how important home ownership is. But we see it as putting we call it a decent place to live, putting a roof over someone's head so that they have a good place to live. Kids can do homework, they'll succeed, financial security, all kind of stuff comes with home ownership. And we'll talk more about that later.
And I wanted to see, now who are we talking about when we're talking about folks? Is it people who may not be able to afford to buy a new home? How is there a qualification process that you have to go through in order to qualify?
Yeah, there is, and there's some national standards that Habitat set. Now, Habitat's aligned under counties throughout the entire nation. So we're Columbia County, so we serve Columbia County, which is kind of important. So we can't build a house in Suwannee County under the requirements of our national organization. And then Duval County has one, and Alachua County, a bunch of stuff like that. All right, but getting back to that, they have to show that they have a financial need for a house. And they look at the average median income or something like that. It has to be a certain percentage of that. And they also have to have a need for a house. So if the family is living in a great house now, we can't just build a house. We have to show.
Well, I mean, we're talking about someone who may be living in substandard housing.
Substandard housing.
You know, I hate to think that there's a lack of running water in some houses, but George, I mean, would that be considered
Sure.
Someone who has a challenge with plumbing that just can't afford to do the repairs necessary, and it would be better for them to just be in a brand new place?
We basically have three requirements to become a partner family with Habitat. We have board members, and the board members serve on various committees, and we have a selection committee, and they determine, number one, are they currently living in substandard housing? That is one of the requirements. Number two is that they pay the money back with a zero interest 20-year loan. And then the third thing that makes it successful is they put sweat equity in the home. If it's a couple, it's 350 hours of sweat equity on their home or someone else's home. If they're a single parent, then it's 300 hours of sweat equity. And it gives an opportunity to the volunteers and the sponsors to get involved and become a partnership to move the family in a decent, simple, affordable home.
And when you say sweat equity, I mean, that's actually picking up a hammer and nail maybe, and But we're not talking hammer and nails because things have come. I mean, in the old days, you had to saw like this, right? And now you've got electric saws, you've got nail guns.
Yep.
So
Pneumatic.
and you don't have to be an expert. You can be taught, right, George? I mean,
That is correct. I was a white collar guy for many years, and I had no skill whatsoever in construction. I had been following the organization for many years and was able to attend a house dedication in Duval County back in the mid-90s. There was about 18 houses dedicated that day, and they had a gymnasium packed with people and families giving out family Bibles. And it was an inspiration. And so I told my wife, I want to retire, I want to do this. And so we're going to move to Jacksonville. We'll work with Habijacks that at one time had 2,000 mortgages where they had built that many homes. And so in addition, I wanted to become more hands-on and learn some of the trades. So when I have a busted faucet at the home, I could do a little plumbing. And there's just a lot of reasons why people should get involved. That was just my personal view.
Now, Monty, you come from the Veterans Administration. You retired from the VA here in Lake City and in Gainesville.
Yes.
What kind of background did you have in building stuff?
Well, I was like George. I was a white collar worker and certainly wasn't a carpenter or anything like that. But during my early years in life, going to college in the summers, every summer I ended up with a job doing construction. And I worked in concrete plants, roofing, helped build some homes. I did a lot of work on boats. I was a deckhand for a while and rebuilt boats. And
So hard work is not new to you. You've
Right.
done this before.
And always during the summer when it was real hot. 'Cause
Right,
I
right.
was back at school in the
so you
fall.
knew
Yeah. Yeah.
sometimes it may be better to be in school than.
I actually learned from a lot of those jobs that
What you didn't want to do.
what I didn't want to do. Go back to school and get a degree so you can work in an air-conditioned building. But if I could say one thing, going back just a little bit on the qualifications for the house, you don't necessarily have to have a house that's falling apart, that the roof is caving in or something like that. You could have a family that's just too crowded in the house. That they're
or they could be renting, right?
or you could be renting, and certainly government housing, if you're in government housing, which means you'll never own the house, you'd qualify for that. But one of the other things that we look for is if you have young kids and you don't have enough bedrooms and you have a little boy and a little girl sharing a bedroom, which some people do during early times in life, there's going to be a point where they need to be separated. And now that turns into a money issue on how do you afford getting that house for that. That qualifies you for it.
Well, and I think Richie, the director of the program, went out and shot a couple of these homes, and I think we're going to look at the latest one that you guys did. This is property. What are we looking at? This is
Magnolia Oaks is actually the subdivision where this house was built recently, and just got the CO last week and transfer of title, I guess, early in the week.
but this is a very nice house.
nice.
It's not a mansion, but you get a nice bathroom, and this is all done by volunteers, correct?
It is. Now some of the skill things are, we do hire, and during the good times, people they got so busy they can't help. So, and we see it.
And there's the family and friends. You guys give them a Bible. Every house comes with a Bible.
Family Bible.
And then you have a ladies quilt guild will do a quilt
For each member of the family.
Wow.
So
That's a pretty.
we had one in Fort White. I believe there was 10 members in that family, and they made 10 quilts and gave it.
Which
to us.
is a southern. I mean, maybe not just a southern thing, but the family always had something. If it was cold at night, you'd put a quilt on, and you wouldn't have to run your heat. And I think we've got another one that was done maybe, I believe, 2 years ago. I believe this one was done in Fort White. This is the ribbon cutting / dedication ceremony. And you got Rotary Club downtown, Morels, First Presbyterian Church, First Federal, TD Bank. You also have Publix, which has helped out.
Yeah. Publix did a whole house funding on this current house that we built, which we're eternally grateful. That really came around at the right point because we really needed the money for the funding, to be honest with you.
Prior to 17, they actually had given us $5,500 one year, and then the next year 10. But in 17,
There we have the quilts.
yep,
Yeah, heirloom quality quilts, by the way. They are gorgeous.
And you see a young man was a football player at Fort White High School in
correct.
his family.
Coach Jackson, I think, Demetrius Jackson, I think.
Let me mention some other thank yous out there. Publix, of course, gets a fantastic thank you, and I mean, they made this house possible. But in addition to that, Don Reed has put the roof on our house for the last couple. Menendez Construction and Brian Zecker. Brian Zecker coordinated a group that come out and do the roof decking on us, and that just speeded us along like crazy.
So we've had some professionals that have been there to give you some guidance as well.
Yeah, to
in
give you an
building.
idea on that, we on that house in Fort White, we did everything on it pretty much. We did the roof decking, we did the rough-in plumbing, the concrete pouring, just about everything. It took us 3 months. By the time we cleared that lot, do we need to?
No.
Okay, I'm sorry. It took us about 3 months by the time we cleared that lot before we actually had concrete poured and were ready to start putting up nails. By going with, we had Dale's Excavation came in, did the clearing on the lot. We did the clearing on the first one. So we had Dale come in, do that, and then we had Craig Croft out of, I think, Lulu, did all the concrete work for us. We had the slab ready to put 2x4s up in 2 weeks. So it actually went from 3 months to get it ready to 2 weeks. Now,
But that's kind of like a perfect storm for you guys, that everything fit just right. You had people willing to volunteer. I know Craig, I know Dale Peeler.
Yeah.
I mean, these guys are really good guys that
They
are
are.
willing to step up and
Yeah.
do that. But that's kind of the way you guys have operated, right? You've gotten into the community and you've said,
Yeah.
can we get some help?
Well, I think in the past, I think we've done just about everything ourselves. I mean, we reach out. Certainly, we don't put in air conditioning systems, and you may have to have a licensed electrician or something like that. But we've done about everything, and we're starting to realize that if you can bring in some professionals and contractors on certain phases of it just speeds you along. The house in Fort White took about 18 months, maybe a little more than that to build. This current house, we finished it right at a year. So we shaved.
So George, are you guys getting better at this? I mean, because I know the more you do anything, the more experience you have, and the team that you have in place, which is all.
I don't know if we're getting better, but we're getting older. So that's occurring. So, and I appreciate this interview today where we could reach out and engage even college students to come out. And we have had them out before, and some colleges, by the way, have their own affiliate.
So
And
there's a hint, right, George?
yes, there is.
Subtle
Mr.
hint.
President, if you would. Going back, one of the things that was a little different on this house versus the one in Fort White, Publix gave us $80,000. They didn't, they wanted to be the sole sponsor for the home. But just to plug Publix a little bit more, back in 2017, they chose to give away $5.5 million that year in about 5 states and almost every affiliate in Florida. And we were lucky to get that money because we are all volunteers. We don't have any paid staff, which might be a handicap as far as organization, and but the board is not matured yet to decide, do we go with a part-time executive? But that, I think, would take us to the next level, in my opinion. I'm a little more pro an executive director, but nevertheless.
I agree with that.
And so Publix wanted us to build it within a year, and we did it.
How important was that, Donette? Because obviously that's your materials for the house.
Absolutely. We in the beginning, many of the communities throughout the nation, the suppliers knew it was a good program after it was perfected, that the formula worked. They saw results going back to 1976. This is when it was conceived. in a community called Coania, Georgia, by a couple named Millard and Linda Fuller. And they had made their millions before they were 30. He was a successful attorney. Life was just not fulfilling. And they became Christians, and they said, it's more blessed to give and receive. They put it to work, and they went there, a group. It was a commune in the 60s during the civil rights. The whites were helping blacks that hadn't, terrible housing, shotgun houses. And so they brought the idea with the local community, and they developed this. And so that's basically the way it started. Many people think Jimmy Carter was the father of this.
He was the face
but
of it.
But he got international recognition, obviously, a past president with his character and his leadership that has really put the face to the program, or put rubber to the road. But I know I'm rambling a little bit, but I just wanted you to have that history.
Right. That's important. That's important.
Today,
to know.
in the world, in today's world, we have 1,400 affiliates in 70 nations. And so it is working. It is a hand up and not a hand out. And we just would like to enthuse people to become involved. And you don't have to swing a hammer. You can make a quilt, as we've shared. You can donate real estate like First Federal has done before.
Bring a lunch out.
Provide lunch for the volunteers on Saturdays. There's just so many ways. And I believe it is the answer to substandard housing. If people will work together as Christians, then this is based on Christian principles. Jesus was a carpenter, therefore we're just putting his principles in place. It's very successful.
On that note, we're going to take a break. When we come back, we'll continue our conversation with Habitat for Humanity with George Burnham and Monty Stevens. You're watching Perspective on Florida Gateway College Television.
A Dog's Way Home is the story of the extraordinary lengths a dog will go to in order to get back to their family. Every year, millions of dogs and cats end up in shelters and rescue groups. We found our Bella at a shelter in Tennessee. When you adopt a shelter pet, you discover they're all pure love. Adopt pure love and help a shelter pet find their way home at theshelterpetproject.org.
Welcome back to Perspective on Florida Gateway College Television and WCJX and WQHL Radio. We welcome those listeners to the program as well. Monty Stevens and George Burnham are passionate. If you haven't figured that out yet, they're very passionate about Habitat for Humanity, which has been in existence for many years here in Columbia County. George, I know that, again, you speak from the heart when you talk about helping people. And you mentioned hand up, not hand out. How does that work? Now, they're still making a payment, but it's a no interest loan, and so the payments are affordable, correct?
Absolutely. What makes it really work so well, there's 2 or 3 ingredients that we put in the pie, if you will. Volunteers helps reduce the cost. SHIP, which is down pay assistance that anybody can get based on their income. You can't make too much money, and you do have to have some credit. This is not a free house. I answer the voicemail for the affiliate, and people are asking about how do they get their free home, and of course that's not the case at all. There is a payback over a 20-year period.
But it's
very affordable.
Very affordable.
Very affordable.
You would not straddle, and I don't think that wouldn't work if you straddled someone with a payment that they really couldn't afford according to what their income would be. The program definitely wouldn't work because you would have people
we don't want failure.
Default on
we don't want failure. That's not going to help the program. We do not like to move families out of a home. That's a last resort. To give you an idea of a typical family, and the income is the high, as I don't remember, it's based on the number in the household. But the average house, the 8 that we've constructed since 2005, probably is 400. Early houses was like 350. And that, Mike, includes the taxes, the insurance, and the mortgage payment. These houses will rent for $700 and $800, 3-bedroom, 2-bath, and they're getting equity in this house with that kind of payment. Now we're building stability in people's homes and their family, and the best part of all, when they move on, the children have something to hang on to, which
Well,
we take
and-
for granted.
so-
Many of us take homes for granted.
Right. Well, and Monty, you know this, and most people do. The home is the biggest investment that you'll make in your lifetime. But once they're in this home, if they outgrow it, they pay it off and buy a new home, or they're they sell.
build some equity.
Yeah. Right. So I mean, there is. This could be a start for a lot of people. And is it a start for some people?
It is, and getting back to a little bit of the finances, because everything kind of comes down to what can I afford. That's how you get a house a lot of times. We do make it affordable. The house that we just finished, the principal was under $400 a month, well under $400 a month. Escrow and all that added a little bit more for taxes and insurance. If that house had been financed at 4.5% interest rate, I won't get exactly into the numbers, but the interest on that would have been about $400 a month.
So $800 payment versus a $400 payment.
Yeah, basically would have almost, not quite, but almost doubled the cost on the house, and you'd have been paying interest, and that'd have been on a 30-year fixed loan. So we're given a 20-year fixed loan at 0%, and that does make it very
Well,
affordable.
that's pretty important to know that you can make these payments, and again, we're talking people that have kids.
Yes.
Most of these families, and I believe some of these families have adopted children.
Blended families.
Yeah, blended family of
Yep,
adopted
yeah.
children, and so they're trying to make a difference in a child's life by adopting them, and then here you are, helping them out, helping them
Right.
along to make a difference.
Now, going back to the outgrowing or something like that, now, a lot of our families are probably going to end up seeing the kids leave the nest in a few years when they go to school or get their own lives, and maybe the house will fit even better and do even better. But after 10 years, they've met a lot of the requirements for the SHIP loan and for Habitat, and then at that point, they can sell the house. Now, they can get out of it whenever they want. But there's things that they have to pay back with SHIP and
Right.
and stuff like that. There's requirements, or there's a better word out there, but there are some stipulations that they have to meet.
So I'm watching this, and or I'm looking at it on YouTube, because we do have a YouTube channel that this will appear on, and I'm thinking, I'm in a situation like that. Who do we contact? Is there someone in maybe the SHIP program that says you need to go through this process first to determine whether you can qualify for that down payment, and then we hook you up with the people at Habitat for Humanity? What is the process, George?
The referral that we get, actually, SHIP does refer people to our program. In fact, my experience since '08 has been finding qualified families. It's amazing that very few people know about the program. We have struggled to find families. We typically do not start a new house without 2 families qualified. Financially, credit, stability, all those things are considered. And we need help in finding good families. We've done quite well with the families we've got, but we could really use some help.
Well, is it? I mean, because we're talking about qualified family.
Mm-hmm.
You're not just. You're in for the long term. This is not something that you're in for the long haul too. Because once you're qualified, then you get the land, and then you do the building.
Yeah.
And so you got to be there. You got to be through the process, but then
Mm-hmm.
be ready to assume this mortgage.
It's a 20-year venture.
Yeah. So, do you think that?
But
may
we
be
can
part of the
extend
reason?
terms, by the way. Monty knows on the last house,
Yeah.
we did extend the terms a little bit.
Now, do you think that may be a holdup for some people, that they're, a lot of people don't like to make commitment. You look at guys
Sure.
who don't get married. They're not into the commitment right away. But same thing here. It could be that you're making a commitment. 20 years of your life is now going to be going toward this house.
That's right. And unfortunately, the families have not had that kind of training, if you will, or experience from their parents. So it is a learning curve, and that's another thing that people could help us with, is bank employees that work with their own families that they financed for 25 or 30 years. If they could step up and serve on one of our nurturing committees. We have about 6 standing committees, and one of them is nurturing these families and teaching them how to manage their money. Don't be buying an iPhone for every kid. That's probably not a good investment for you and the child. So there's just so many ways that people can get involved, and this is pretty much scandal-free, which there's very few institutions today that you can say. I mean, I won't go negative today, but anyways.
About other charities, yeah.
You know, so
We're
there's
a
been
good
investigations. So thank goodness that this is a divine plan, in my opinion, of helping people. As Jesus said, it's more blessed to give and receive. And we're mostly retirees. Now, we do have family members of retirees that show up and help out because they know the value of the program and how they can change people's lives for the better.
Let's talk about that long-term
I tell you
commitment.
what, we got to take one more break. We're going to take one more break. When we come back, we'll wrap things up with Habitat for Humanity, how you can be involved, if it's sweat equity that you provide if you don't have the money, or if you got money, they'll take either one. We'll be back. Don't go away.
Not completing high school is more of a social thing than it was an academic thing. Even though all these years have passed, I still had that longing to have my diploma. I have a mentor, and she convinced me to continue my education.
No one receives a diploma alone.
If you're even considering getting your high school diploma, go get it. You can do it.
Find free adult education classes near you at finishyourdiploma.org.
If you're on FGC TV and WQHL, WCJX Radio. George Burnham and Monty Stevens are passionate about Habitat for Humanity, and thank God they are, because this has really made this program go. Monty, before the break, you wanted to add something to George, because George gets on a roll sometimes.
He's good. But I wanted to add about that long-term commitment, home ownership. Yeah, 20-year, 30-year mortgage, whatever you.
Well, anyone who buys a home is making a long-term commitment.
It's a long-term commitment, and it is kind of scary sometimes. But when I first moved to Lake City, I bought a house out in the Eastwood subdivision. It was $48,000, and it was a 1,250 square foot house. That same house now would probably sell for about $110,000, $120,000. I don't know what it would sell for.
So it appreciated.
It would appreciate it, and I would love to get into those kind of commitments.
Oh yeah, well, I mean, and again, you look at this. You got to look at the big picture. I mean, a lot of young people, families, they're not looking at. They're looking at a sprint versus a long 5K race. And so I think that has to be the mindset in this as well. But George, I mean, you got involved because you retired. Mm-hmm. And I mean, are there guys out there or people out there that you want to say something to about retirement? You can't just watch TV all day. I mean, you got to be active. You got to do stuff, right, Monty?
Exactly.
You both have retired, so you got to look for stuff to do.
Call us up.
What better way to spend your time?
Well, it's an active volunteer. It's not you're out meeting other people, and I found that on a Saturday afternoon early on, putting shingles down in August with volunteers on a roof for somebody else, not themselves, because by nature it's all about me, but this is not.
Okay, here's how you can get more information about Habitat for Humanity. You can write them a check, Post Office Box 487, or call them. Guys, thank you so much for being on the program. We look forward to the next house and the ribbon cutting, and we'll be there.
Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mike.
And thank you for watching Perspective on FGC TV.